today we're going to talk about Christian Dior. I'm trying to keep it in the flow of kind of mixing in some other like brands, but also some other topics. Like if you checked out the one before this about Silk Road, is absolutely insane, so make sure and check that one out. Again, I am still in the middle of a renovation. I have my mother-in-law's dog here, and he'll probably pop off at some time barking, but he's lying on his little blanket here beside me. I'll pop in a little photo of him. He is so cute. But I've been doing some research about Christian Dior, so I have all my papers here. It's 6 pages long, so let's get into it. And yeah, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, let's do my makeup. Was his actual name. He was born in 1905 in Granville, a seaside town in France. He has 4 siblings and he's the second child to his parents, and his dad owned a successful fertilizing factory. So from my research, it seems like he grew up pretty privileged for the times. Like his dad was pretty successful and that's what he grew up doing. His dad has said that he wanted him to be like a diplomat, be in politics, but he had always wanted to be an architect. So I guess that's where he gets his love of design and stuff in him, that he loved to draw things and do things and be a bit more creative. His childhood, because there wasn't really anything that came up in particular. In 1925, he enrolled to do political science, as his dad didn't really believe there was a job in the arts, whether that be architect or anything. His dad wanted him to go into the more politics side of things. So that's where he started his life going into. He finished his degree, he was 23, and he decided to open an art gallery, and he was actually funded by his dad. But at the time, his dad still didn't really believe in anything to do with like the arts and all that. So he loaned him the money to start it, but said Christian Dior, he couldn't have the name Dior above the gallery as he didn't want his name associated with it. 1931 was the Great Depression and he was in his mid-20s. His mother and brother had died really suddenly around this time, and his dad had lost his business. So I guess his dad being his financial backing, once his dad lost his business, he had to close the gallery after 3 years of it being open, and this was probably one of the lowest points. And I think what I got from researching is this is the first point in his life where he lost everything, because he had to like sell his money. He was homeless, he had to go live with a friend. I didn't really read much into his dad's story because his dad's shop had closed because financial ruins, the Great Depression. I guess he didn't have his dad's money to fall back on with the gallery, and at this time he ended up being homeless, like I said, and he ended up living with a friend. I couldn't really find out much to do with what he did work-wise for the next little while, but I did read about him getting tuberculosis. So obviously he was living kind of very poor. He had no money, and he ended up contracting tuberculosis, and he was in recovery for a full year. Around this time, it wasn't completely uncommon for people to contract, I know I'm saying that wrong, come in contact with tuberculosis and end up getting really sick. So he spent a full year in recovery after getting tuberculosis. After he recovered, he realized he needed to start making some money. The economy was starting to kind of improve by this time. So he decided to start selling sketches of his design. So he wanted to be an architect, I guess, because he was good at drawing. But one thing he was, I guess, passionate about was like art and drawing and fashion. So he started drawing out dresses and stuff, and he sold them for 10 cents a piece. This is where he met Robert Peugeot, and he began training Christian as he saw his potential in the fashion industry. He could tell he had a knack about him, and he knew what he was doing when it came to drawing. So he decided to train Christian up. I think he started as his assistant to begin with, and then he trained him up to be his protege. Just as his dreams were starting to come true, World War II hit, and he had to go serve for the military, for the French army. There was some articles that said he didn't actually serve in the war. He did like farm work, but he didn't work to the end of the war either. He did come home earlier to work in the fashion industry. Came back to work for Louis Long. I'm going to put it on the screen because I've just googled how to pronounce it, and I'm pretty sure I pronounced it a bit wrong. I'm just going to say Lucien. He was more of a businessman than actually a fashion designer, but he knew how to spot and find talent so that he could employ them to make designs for his haute couture fashion. And again, at this time, it was someone who was dressing whoever they could find, whether they were a Nazi or not. I don't know if I'm gonna have to finish the video with him on my lap. I had to do that the other day actually because he was barking so much. He's just so needy. He just loves attention. Look at him. And he's an old boy now, he's like 14. At this point, he was obviously working for Lucien. He was doing the designs for his haute couture business. But Christian realized by this point that he actually wanted to work for himself rather than work for somebody else. And this is when he came up with Christian Dior himself, because he was obviously in the business. So he decided that it was about time. And I think by this point, he was in his 30s, so he wasn't crazy old. He was 41 when he actually opened his first store in Paris. And at this point, his dad had died. So he got investors to help him open up his first store. His dad had died. So I'd imagine his dad probably didn't mind him using the name Christian Dior at this point because he already had a name in the business. So he kind of knew it was going to be successful. But he had a real love for flowers, which was a point that I kind of seen a few times. And it took 3 months for his first collection to come out, and it was called Corolla, which is after a flower. It was a very feminine style, and it was the end of the war at this time, so people obviously were a bit happier to go out and celebrate the war being over. So he had done his first collection, Corolla, and it was very feminine. I'll pop up some photos of it. Coco Chanel had said, because at this time everything was quite androgynous and Coco Chanel was quite into that style, so she said that he was setting women back by like giving them tiny waists and stuff, you know what I mean? If you look at his kind of designs, she had said he was taking women back in time rather than bringing them forward, and she was not a fan of his designs at all. And if you compare them, you can see that they are very different. First tried to make the move over to the USA to, you know, become a worldwide company. The US did not take kindly to him at first, but within his first year of having a collection there, he did open a store, so people did begin to like his clothes after all. And that is when he came up with Miss Dior. So at this time they were making clothes, bags, perfumes, everything, and he kind of wanted the idea of someone could be completely dressed head to toe from Christian Dior, and that included having like smelling like Christian Dior. And it's called Miss Dior after his sister Catherine. That's where he got the inspo for that perfume. And this next part was something I had no idea about. So Yves Saint Laurent was 19, and that's when he first started working for Christian Dior. And Christian Dior believed in him so much, he actually made him his successor as he joined the company because he believed in him. But I don't think he realized he was going to need a successor as soon as he did, because in 1957 he went to Italy on a holiday and he had his third heart attack, and that is when he passed away at the age of 52. So he was pretty young when he died actually, but he did get to see a lot of success. Look up, because do you know what, sexuality is always like a funny one to point out about someone, but I guess for the time it was, with a lot of these kind of designers and stuff, it is just interesting to know. So he didn't have any kids, and that's why Yves Saint Laurent was his successor. Because when I read that, I was like, why did he make him a successor? Did he not have like a son or a daughter, or like, you know, like other stories where they've given their business to the son-in-law? So I did look that up, and it turned out he was gay. There was no more stories about it. I don't know if it was a scandal, if it was like very open, or if it was kept very like hush hush. And that's why he gave Yves Saint Laurent the business. Successor doesn't necessarily mean that you own the business. It just means you're the CEO, I guess. Because there was obviously still like investors and stuff involved in the company. So he was just kind of there to be the creative director, and that's what he did do. Vision alive with the business, and he did try to keep his kind of vision and stuff, but for some reason the rest of the company and people in the fashion world just couldn't accept him as the successor. And I guess it's maybe because he was quite young and new, they couldn't accept him as a creative director, and they didn't really like the way he was sending the brand. So yeah, I'm going to do another video on Yves Saint Laurent as well, because I didn't know that at all, and it was super fascinating to read. In 1960, he was drafted into the French army to go to war, Yves Saint Laurent. So the company obviously did not mind him leaving, but they needed to find someone new to be the creative director. So in the late 1960s, Mark Bowen became the creative director of Christian Dior, and he decided to give the brand a bit more of a modern twist. And I think sometimes brands need to do that, because when the owner, the founder, leaves, I think he wants to get down now. Founder kind of leaves, I guess a lot leaves with a company, that you do kind of need to change it. You do want to keep it somewhat to the original, but you do need to add your own twist on it, because it is a new founder. It is like a new creative director now, so it makes sense. That's when the success really took off for the next decade of Christian Dior. Was this guy Mark that took over, that just made the company completely successful and set it off worldwide. So this next bit, I'm not sure if I was like a bit confused when I was like reading about it, but Christian Dior was like part of, like, you know, there was investors and everything involved in it. So I think at some point whoever had invested in Christian Dior had gone bankrupt at this time, which meant good news for people that did want to invest in Christian Dior at the time, because it was obviously a big company. So Bernard, in 1982, Bernard Arnault, CEO of LVMH, he basically owns the umbrella. I'll pop up a photo of like lots of different companies, and it is said that he has always been an admirer of Christian Dior. So when it came to get the chance to be able to buy Christian Dior, he ran with that opportunity. He really liked the company and the brand. And like I said, they own so many different companies around the world. LVMH Corp, I guess you could say it's like a corporation, because they own so many different companies, is worth $157 billion. And Bernard is a French guy. And I need to do a whole other video on him, because he owns so many different companies. He's come up quite a bit in different things I've researched. Whether it's a company he wanted to buy and couldn't buy, or like company that he actually did get to buy. But he is such a rich man. Like, can you actually imagine? Like, when I think about being rich, I think like, oh, maybe having like £1 million would be nice. You know what I mean? You never really have to stress about money. But 157 billion. So today, Christian Dior is worth $88 billion. That's crazy. So that's kind of the story. It's a story of Christian Dior. I kind of condensed it, I think, quite well, just so it wasn't like so overwhelming, because sometimes you can just get so deep into little stories. But yeah, so I'm going to do a story on Yves Saint Laurent soon. That's going to be the next one I'm going to research. And then I'm going to do Bernard Arnault. I know I pronounced everything wrong. Sometimes I like listen on like Google, or I like look up a TikTok video about it, and I'll just listen to how they say the name. But I'm so bad at pronouncing. And then I want to do another third video about all the brands that are associated with Nazism, because fascinating. But yeah, so let me know what you think. Don't forget to check out some of my other videos. I only realized halfway through recording this video that I'm doing it this way instead of landscape. So let me know if you like the video this way, because I know it comes up different. It depends where you're watching. If you're watching on your phone, tablet, or if you're watching on the telly, everything looks slightly different. So let me know what you think of this format. I'm actually just keeping my makeup really basic today. I didn't want to add too much, because I'm actually doing some Halloween makeup after this. I think I'm going to do like a cutesy skull on one side of my face. So I will pop in some photos of a couple of makeup looks that I've done so far for Halloween. So make sure and check them out. I think this video might be up after Halloween though, if I am right, because it's the start of October now. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if there is a topic you want me to talk about, please let me know. I'd be so interested. I want to talk about everything and anything. So yeah, thank you so much for checking in.